Hey, what's up guys? It's Demilich. Welcome back to another episode of Dawn of War Fundamental Knowledge. Today we are diving into the 3 available armies in the game and figuring out which units are the best suited for attacking different types of armor. If you haven't seen the previous episode and are familiar with the different armor types in the game, I highly recommend checking it out first. We will also try to draw some general conclusions about the armies. Of course, this division will be conditional, and what I say isn't the ultimate truth, just my own observations. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. On the first screen, we can see anti-infantry units and buildings. We can see that the Necrons specialize well in neutralizing medium, high, and heavy medium infantry. They also perform decently against heavy high infantry and medium demons. Additionally, I see that the Necron warriors are more effective against medium and high buildings in the melee. Now, let's take a look at anti-vehicle units. We can see that they deal very high damage to low, medium, and air vehicles. If destroyers and immortals encounter infantry, it's better for them to engage in a melee. Scarabs can only attack air vehicles. Since we already have dedicated anti-air specialists, we can safely discard these units as useless. Now, onto the specialists against relic units, which are effective against high demons and high vehicles. They are also good against infantry, but their main purpose is just what I mentioned. Necron Lord and Lord Destroyer have the same weapon and deal identical damage, except for the Necron Lord's critical attack. As we can see, Nightbringer effectively replaces 3 Lords in terms of the damage it deals. Next, we have all-around specialists, let's call them that. Deceiver will apply debuffs, Tomb Spider provides great support and demoralizes enemies, while the others will simply annihilate everything. By the way, I'm not sure why the wiki says that Obelisk doesn't deal damage to air targets. When I tested it, the Obelisk did inflict damage, and in fact, it did so more frequently than stated on the wiki, about once per second. As you can see, everything has to be tested, and I'm learning alongside you as I present this material. Well, my overall impressions of the army are displayed on the screen, and now we move on. Almost all units in the Dark Eldar army are anti-infantry. There's so many of them that this army will mostly be infantry focused. Also, let me clarify, if you don't see all upgrades for a unit, it means that the upgrades increase damage proportionally, so there's no point in listing them here. And if you see only range damage but not melee damage or vice versa, it means that one type of damage is significantly weaker and not worth considering, or it simply doesn't exist. Hellion Squad deals more damage to vehicles in range combat than in melee. Witches under combat drugs will perform better in a melee against all targets. Archon is mostly anti-infantry at the start, but in a late game its damage changes. We will discuss this later. Ravager comes with the 3 Dark Lances, which are anti-vehicle weapons, but they can all be replaced with anti-infantry disintegrators. Now, take a look at this. It seems like the only weapon in this army that deals vehicle damage is Dark Lance. Unbelievable, right? It seems better not to replace Ravager's weapons at all, because you already have plenty of anti-infantry units. It's best to keep it as it is and save resources, especially since this vehicle can also be used against buildings. If you equip Dark Lances on your Scourge squad, remember that 4 of them will deal significantly less damage to infantry. But if you haven't built a Dark Foundry and haven't reached tier 4, this is your only option to fight against vehicles. Also at the bottom we see a decent anti-air device. Next, let's look at the abilities and units that deal damage to all types of targets. The only thing I want to discuss here is Agonizer upgrade for the Archon. This weapon deals equal damage to all targets, but slightly less against buildings and some vehicles. The upgrade is also available to all surgeons in the army. Without upgrades, their damage is similar to Hellion Squad, but with Agonizer, they gain a weaker version, about 20-30% of the hero's strength. Also, they wear heavy, high armor. Now, let's move on to the Chaos Army. For cultists, the most important thing is to add grenade launchers. With them, they become truly strong and deal significant damage to infantry. Adding plasma pistols is completely inefficient. The problem is that accuracy remains at 40% and the damage only increased by 1.5 times, meaning there is never a reason to equip them. Chaos Space Marines have decent heavy bolters, and you don't necessarily need to go into tier 3 to unlock plasma weapons. Obliterators, Possessed Squad, and the Demon Prince will be effective against all targets in the game, but infantry will suffer most against them. The minefield in this army is noticeably better against vehicles, which is worth mentioning, even though it is often used against infantry. Chaos heroes deal high damage to demons and high vehicles, though Sorcerer does relatively low damage to medium demons. However, I want to discuss something else, the Plasma Pistol upgrade. Look at the Chaos Lord base damage and compare it to his damage after equipping a Plasma Pistol. You will notice that while the damage increases significantly, accuracy and firing speed decrease as much. The only unit that fully benefits from this is the Sorcerer. For everyone else, it is not super useful. The same applies to Surgeons. All of them lose accuracy and firing speed. All Surgeons wear heavy medium armor, have the same upgrades as the heroes, and function as mini versions of the main heroes, dealing roughly 25% of their damage. There is also a building demolisher against high buildings. Just look at the insane damage it deals. Considering how difficult it is for most units to destroy such buildings, we can say that its primary role should be targeting main structures. Chaos vehicles deal good damage to everything and perform exceptionally well, if not at long range, then in melee. They are super versatile. Predator upgrades are extremely cheap, costing almost nothing, but they provide an upgrade as if you got an entirely new tank. Compare this to the Dark Eldar and you will see the difference. And of course, you can see for yourself which abilities deal damage and which targets they are most effective against. Overall, this is a very well balanced army with no major weaknesses. The conclusions shown are relative, but this faction has solid versatility across the board. Well, now you have a rough idea of what the next two videos will be about. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. You can also write which 3 armies you'd like to see next. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. See you next time.